What is intimacy? Is it just that beautiful sexual connection?
Or is it deeper? Is it into me see?
Come on, Ashley. Don't make this all emotional on me.
I believe that it is hard to remain emotionally distant when you physically connect on a daily basis. So what does intimacy look like in your home?
Mama says namaste.
Mama says namaste.
Making a family can be easy and fun.
Oh yeah, but raising a family can be a whole different story.
From spouses to kids to the crazy daily grind, life often directs us away from connection and more into reactive chaos.
If you're tired of that cycle and are seeking something beyond the picket fence blues, this is the show for you.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Nathan.
And we're here to take you from chaos to clarity by bringing awareness and intention into your home, not waiting for one day, and highlighting how
the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us.
Take a deep breath in and let's start a brand new day. With Mama Says Namaste.
I know the topic of intimacy can be a dicey situation for a lot of families. And I also recognize that there are different ebbs and flows and seasons of intimacy in our lives.
Indeed. I mean, it's kind of there are moments and there are periods of our life where attention to other areas are required. You know, they always say, I grew up hearing this wheel or circle of balanced life where you had a little pie, and the, I don't know, 10, 15% goes to work and play, and life doesn't work that way.
No.
You don't eat equal slices of it. It's like a zigzag. It's like a 2-year-old with a crayon trying to draw a straight line. It's all over the place. But, that's the beauty of life. It's not those, easy fragmented chunks. It comes at you in big waves, and so you've got to kind of deal with it. And so sometimes intimacy can die down for a period.
Right. Yeah, I talk about, instead of life balance, I talk about life harmony. And that's my coaching packages are life harmony packages. It's not to balance everything out equally. There are times where I don't want to have work have the same precedence as family time, or I've got a big project and I've got to focus on work. So what we're looking for is the more we are true to who we are, the more we know what our desires and our goals and our vision is for who we are and how we want to show up in the world, the more we can kind of look at, okay, what is my song right now? And then all of these other things, your social, your career, your financial, your physical, all of these things then become the harmony around it.
Yeah, how will I weave that into my life? Yeah.
Right. And so you look at who am I and how do I most come alive? And then the harmony are all of the other factors outside of your control and how those play into it. So I can choose my song of how I'm going to show up and my melody for how I'm going to show up in my work and how I'm going to show up in my family. And the harmony is part of, recognizing when some takes more attention than others, and that there are seasons for that. And I may be really hyper-focused in one area for a while, and then I switch because, the harmony in my home right now requires me with toddlers and an infant to be as present as I can at home. And so my, career song takes a little bit of the back burner, not forever, but for this season in our lives. And those are ways that we look at, what's in the spotlight, what's really making the music for you in this moment in your life, and how can we make that continue to flow as a beautiful song.
That's a beautiful analogy.
So as I said in the intro, we talk about it is hard to remain emotionally distant when you physically connect on a daily basis. And so when we're looking at our lives and how to continue to add flow and connection, touch is a part of that. And not just touch, it's the intimacy of the vulnerability of really sharing and opening up all elements of who you are. And there's physical intimacy and there's sexual intimacy. We talked about both of those when we had Tony and Elisa De Lorenzo with the 6 Pillars of Marriage book on. And you're going to be hearing from them next week as we dive into navigating conflict. And again, how that is a ripple effect from what it is between how you handle conflict with your significant other. And then that's going to ripple out into how you handle conflict with others beyond that. So, when it comes to physical and sexual intimacy, we are very big advocates for the way to keep the song going in our relationship is to ensure that those are important components on a daily basis for us.
Yeah, some type of physical connection, whether it's holding hands, going on a walk together, carving out time for each other. You know, it's easy to forget to do that in life because everything has a screaming priority, you know, and then before you go to bed, you make sure to check your phone to see if there's any screaming priorities that need to be put to bed before you go to bed. And the last thing we think about is the screaming priority of our relationship until it's fallen apart or it doesn't feel the same or we've just grown apart and it's distant and I don't know, it just happened one day. You know, those types of moments, they don't just happen. It's like a slow drip, you know, it's little by little. If you don't carve out those moments and intentionally create space to offer the opportunity for touch, then it's really hard to do that spontaneously and more organic. Because I know that's kind of the fun way you want it, is everything to be just organic.
Right.
You know, just magically, the perfect group of friends shows up and you have just a wonderful organic evening. Those happen, but pretty rarely. You got to make life happen the way you want it to happen.
Yeah, we really curate this. And so I do want to say one thing about this. I mean, I know that there is a struggle with a lot of families when it comes to, to sex and intimacy in the bedroom. You're maxed out, you're touched out by young children, and there is oftentimes a point where exhaustion wins, and it takes precedent over seasons. It. Yeah, and so that's where, first off, grace for the seasons. Okay, sometimes there are seasons where other things are going to take are going to take precedence. But I mean, even in that scenario, so for example, when we had those small babies, there were seasons where our intimacy, you know, I just had a baby. I'm not making love in the bedroom. But how can we still have those connections? I mean, Nathan did an incredible job of reaching out and connecting with me physically every day in a way that really helped me by giving me massages. I mean, we had our physical touch and we still had that physical connection with one another in a way that I was really able to receive at that time, because I was full on motherhood with, you know, nursing babies and recovery and my body recovering.
Yeah. I mean, seasons are a beautiful opportunity to explore other avenues and other areas of intimacy because they demand it. You know, you kind of have to adjust your behavior because of the moment that you're in, because it's too much. And I think, again, the piece there is there's got to be time carved out.
And that's the other part that I want to say. And we did a podcast on this. It's not what did I call it? It's not a habit. It's a practice. I don't want to say get into the habit of making love to your partner, or get into the habit of, giving each other massages or something. But when you first go and you start exercising, let's say you're going running, there are those days you don't feel like running. Yet you choose to do it because you understand the benefit on the other side of it. And at the end of it,
you never regret, I should not have ran.
Right.
Really was.
Right.
Should have listened to the old grump in the brain.
I have to be honest, as a woman with a different sex drive than my husband, there are times where I am not in the mood and you're going to be in the mood. And I am not advocating for muscling through intimacy. This is a very vulnerable aspect, and there are a lot of things, a lot of baggage we can bring into our comfort levels when it comes to intimacy. But I recognize that when I prioritized the importance of intimacy in our relationship and the importance of having that sexual intimacy in our relationship, there were times where I may not have been in the mood to start, but you could get me in the mood quickly. We figured it out.
Yeah.
And afterward, there was never that moment of regret of, oh, I wish that didn't happen. And as I started to look at how we could make sexual and physical intimacy a daily habit in our lives in some form or other, that meant that I did that practice regardless of whether or not I was 100% for it. I went ahead and I did it for the sake of our relationship. I wanted to continue to build that and foster that. And again, I'm saying this with caution because there can be a lot that can be carried into our with sexual baggage and and trauma and pains. And so going back to our whole focus last month of looking inward, really pay attention to what you're bringing into the bedroom. And is that really something that has a place in your bedroom?
Well, I think that, like you were saying in the intro with intimacy, you have to have built a relationship and
Mm-hmm.
permission to and laid the groundwork to be able to have that experience. That
You're right. I say
so
yes
it's-
because the groundwork was there, that I knew I was being respected, honored, and desired. And that's an easy way to say yes versus it's your job, woman. That's a whole different.
Right, very different. But intimacy, to the same point, can look very different. And so, our pedigree of intimacy is just ours. I mean, that's what we've figured out how to make that work for us. However, we have found tremendous value in making intentional connections with each other, and that's just to physically hold or embrace each other. I mean, there's 1,000 different ways to be intimate. That can't really be boxed in. But making time for that to happen on a daily basis is a practice that you'll find really pays dividends in your emotional health and your relationship health. Just like if you get up and you make a commitment to be physical every day in some way, be it push-ups or hiking or running or whatever it is, the compounding effect of that activity, suddenly you wake up and realize, I did not realize I could feel this good. I feel a lot better than I did in my 20s. Well, you can do the same thing with your relationship, with those daily habits of touching and interacting with each other and making that a priority. It's suddenly you can wake up and realize, I had forgotten how much, this is just amazing. I didn't realize how good life could get. And you just wake up with that feeling one day because of that compounding effect of, having a open and warm heart towards each other.
I remember getting to the point that we had created such a practice in our lives of that physical connection that, a week or something of, being under the weather and everything, we started to notice that we would be testier with one another. And our patience level was different with
we don't
one
get
another.
sick very often.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Our patience level was, we get shorter tempered with one another. It's amazing what the power of touch can do. And, there's all kinds of scientific research on how important touch is for the human soul. And as adults, we feel so touched out by our kids, that we don't want it from anywhere. And we don't realize what we're missing until, like you said, it's after creating a practice of doing it for a while, all of a sudden you have a whole other feeling of fulfillment and a whole other feeling of connection. And honestly, not even just with you, me opening the door to physical, intimate touch with you also allows me to better know my own body and experience the feelings of my own body. So it brings a closer connection to yourself as well. And I've used the practice of, I've assigned this practice to couples. I've also assigned this practice to parents and children, where you have a family member And a lot of times this is the mom who's very touched out. And the last thing they're wanting to do is have one more person kind of giving them a demand. And so I flip it on them and I say, well, instead of waiting for somebody to ask it of you, why don't you initiate it and start your morning with a 60-second hug? And that's it. I say, don't do anything different except for the next 2 weeks, start your morning with a 60-second hug and just hold the person for 60 seconds. And I mean, the stories of how that has shifted families and how all of a sudden, the super needy kid that was always on their mom now is running off and running around because she got that boost first thing in the morning. Or the couple who, after 30 seconds then broke down because that feeling was such a powerful feeling when they hadn't had a connection in so long. And then being able to move into that feeling and that expectation and anticipation of being held for 60 seconds is so beautiful, and sometimes can break that boundary of distrust between partners where, everything that any touch means I have to, we got to have sex. No, it doesn't necessarily. And I mean, sex is a beautiful part that is a valuable part in a relationship, but that's one form of intimacy. And what we're talking about is opening the door of physical intimacy, as well as your sexual intimacy. So, I mean, recognize the power of simply holding each other for 60 seconds.
Also, I think there's some people who appreciate tasks, like certain things to be tidied up and in their place before they feel comfortable and relaxed. That's another way to express intimacy, to help clean up and get things in a position where everybody feels at their best in their most relaxed space.
And that's something that clearly is a learned trait by you, because you were ready to just, kids are in bed, let's get intimate. Yeah. And I'm like, where are my candles? Where's my romantic music? How come the house isn't clean? Like, there's so many things I've got to do before we can get to that. And then 2 hours later, I'm still prepping everything, and now I'm tired and don't want to have sex.
There you go.
You got to look at how to, again, dummy proof it in a way that works for everyone. And sometimes that's looking deeper into how can I best create an air of intimacy. Well, 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, it's you guys being on the same page to begin with.
And that's usually what having that time available on a daily basis is used for. Is, it drives me nuts when you do this. So you're figuring out how to be intimate with each other again. Yeah. And that's okay. That's going to take bumping into some cactuses to realize there's thorns there. But
and another thing that we have heard as a kind of a frustration when it comes to intimacy is that one person always initiates it. And I know we have been guilty of that multiple times, of being in a rut, especially for, me just letting Nathan take the lead. And that's where we looked at, okay, how is this working for us? And when you voiced that you kind of felt that, we looked at, okay, what can we do? Again, this isn't a you against me. This is us together working on a relationship. So what can we do? And we created a his, hers, ours night. Mm-hmm. And so we alternated and we picked different times for it and everything, where one night was all Nathan and everything focused on anything. So me taking the initiative, and I plan the night, and I do anything for Nathan. And so, giving him a massage, or if Nathan wants to, we watch a movie or whatever, but it's me kind of cherishing and catering to him. And then roles reverse, same thing happens for me. And then doing one where it's us together and us deciding together and doing some things more collaborative. Mm-hmm. But what it did is it really helped to kind of take the pressure off, because we knew whose day it was and whether you could just flat out receive. And it's really nice to just flat out receive sometimes and not feel the tension.
Yeah.
Too.
And that's where it can seem kind of structured, and it is. Yeah. But if you don't structure it, it's not gonna happen. And if you don't voice it, it's never gonna change. It'll stay the same. I think if that can happen, is you just kind of hope that this subtle hints will nudge old blockhead in the right direction. Not usually the case. I think it's best to say, let's try something new to see if we can encourage, some desires that I have to come out.
Right. Building on last week's call about play. One of the things we did a lot when we were first married of just trying out different things, is that I got a silly book with illustrations for my as a bachelorette party gift.
Oh yeah.
And we went through that. We had truth or dare sex games. I mean, we brought some fun in it.
Yeah.
And we looked at playing around in the bedroom, and in doing that, again, just like what we talked about last week, it's not just one person knows something and the other person's coming in blind. No, it's embarking on things together where you both don't really know, and it's vulnerable together, and you're growing together. And so we would do the same thing when it came to in the bedroom, try things out and have fun together with both of us on the same page, not pushing or dragging.
Right. And that's the secret is, and that's really what I would say both partners are desiring is, engagement and interaction and fully in life. If I'm at the mall, you want me to be engaged and interacting in the flora and the fauna of all the.
No, I want you to get me out of there.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's engaging and interacting with one another, and recognize that if you're really wanting a lot of connection in the bedroom, then where are you showing up in other areas?
Oh, yeah.
How are you supporting each other in other areas? And for the guys who are, we can go in the super traditional here. And guys, if you're coming home every day and you expect that everything is being done by the woman and then they're going to be ready to then show up and be there for you, you're not on the same page.
Well, here's a secret that I've learned is if you're the one watching television and somebody else is working, you're doing it wrong.
Period.
It's that easy. If everything is done and everybody's watching television, rock and roll. You're doing it well. But if you're the only one sitting there, or you and a handful of other people are sitting there and one person is off doing something else, unless they have said, no, you stay there, you're probably doing it wrong.
Right. Look for ways to support and contribute in all different areas, and you'll find that the bedroom and the intimacy, it comes a lot easier.
Well, I've found if there's little to worry about on your to-do list, then our to-do list is the only thing you have to focus on. And so the more that we create
That's
an
true.
environment that we're not stressed out in and we are comfortable in, the more opportunities there are for unfrazzled and focused connection.
That's so true. So our challenge to you is open the door. What is your physical and sexual intimacy look like? How often do you touch your partner? How often do you lay a supportive hand on them? Do you know what things they like? My mom scratches my dad's head every night. He likes to have his head scratched when they're laying in bed. And that's something that, obviously she's told me this, and she figured that out. Well, Nathan's not a head scratching guy. I'm not going to go scratch his head just because that's what my mom and dad did. I got to find out what is it about Nathan? What kind of touch does he like? Does he like it when I come up behind him and put my arms around him? Does he like it when I scratch his back, or does he like a massage better? There's so many questions.
Those are changing things that can happen as well.
Oh yeah, which means you got to always check in and never assume. Never assume.
But that's the beauty is as you're growing and you're checking in with each other, there's lots of space for that intimacy. It's not an awkward or scary or uncomfortable thing. It can be a very beautiful and nurturing and caring place. But it's the energy that you bring into it. Right.
Think about how you are motivated. Are you motivated by making something fun? Well, what kind of fun can you do? What kind of fun games can you do? And add that in. Is it that you like a challenge? Is it that you really want to feel supported? And the more you guys do some stuff together on that to-do list, the better it is. Yeah. What things can motivate you? For us, what kind of set us off on our dedication to our intimacy was listening to a long, long time ago. We listened to One Extraordinary Marriage with Tony and Elisa that will be on next week. And they were talking about a sex challenge. And it was a 7-week sex challenge. And
what it was? It was 7 weeks?
No, sorry, 7 days.
7 days.
It was a 7-day sex challenge.
Yeah.
And we decided to jump on that challenge and try that because we had some...
I was a little hesitant.
Well, we had differing views on how much we actually were intimate.
Yeah, we were having debates on, and a lot of it at that point, it was about initiation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had not come up with the his, hers, ours
Right.
night at that point. And so our solution was, well, we'll try this sex challenge and start keeping track.
Yeah. And it can work. When you make a habit and when you make a daily practice of something and you are looking at, and you've got 2 people on board and a motivator that works for it for them. And so, in that situation, a challenge, I'm all over it. I'm good for that. Sex, you're all over that. You're good for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's make this happen. And it really shifted our intimacy and our connection. And we have been so solid in our vulnerability and our comfort level with one another because of us getting so focused and centered on this one specific thing, on being physically and sexually intimate with one another. And I say those two separately because at this point, we've worked hard to establish comfort in both, enough so that, yes, we know each other in the bedroom. We know we know how we work in the bedroom, but I also know that feeling of you wrapping your arms around me or hugging me or kissing me that isn't going to lead to the bedroom. It's
Right.
just that much ingrained that this is a part of our physical connection with one another.
Yes. And that's having those habits and getting in the... I know some people aren't touchy-feely, but, having some form of opportunity to look each other in the eye or be connected or touch and hold each other's hand while you're walking around, those are moments that are not to be missed. Those are opportunities to build the relationship. And sometimes we can get our feelings hurt and use that space and that physical energy as kind of a control tool. Mm-hmm. Say, well, no, I'm not touching you now. No,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get to touch me anymore. I'm mad at you. Well, that's fine, but that's going to continue. Those feelings are going to continue until either you get over it or they change. And, a lot of times that's not going to fix anything. That's not dealing with the problem.
Yeah. So think about, what kind of relationship you want to create and then how you can add physical and sexual intimacy in because, you got to look at what distinguishes a roommate
Mm-hmm.
versus a companion versus a friend versus your wife, your lover, your partner.
And that's a cake that we all get to make with our relationship. We get to decide what that looks like. And there's a space for intimacy that's really, really important. Unless both partners say, no, I just like reading books, don't touch me. No, there might be one partner over there that says, it's important to me. That's something that reassures me that our relationship is important to you. And it's a touching point that we both have to connect on to say, yes, I'm here, I'm willing. And, that changes the conversation a little bit and gives you an opportunity to flush out what that can look like. And that can look like a lot of different things. But the point is to have the opportunity.
So our challenge is go to your partner and ask them, how do you like to be touched? What makes you feel loved when it comes to our physical intimacy? And have some conversations around that. You may learn something new. You may realize that, they really love something that you had never, you hadn't really thought of.
Yeah.
So have a conversation with your partner and see, are you on the same page when it comes to your physical and sexual intimacy? And of course, that means first and foremost, you have to be willing to have that conversation. If you're not willing to have that conversation, why? What's holding you back? What are you okay with tolerating? Do you want to continue Or are you looking for the opportunity or the possibility for something more and something deeper? So we invite you to have those conversations with your partner, and even go beyond that and looking into, okay, how does this aspect of connection with my own body and connection and vulnerability with someone else, how does that open me up even beyond that? I feel that my ability to physically connect or show up in all aspects of life, whether that is me knowing my own body or me knowing or me hugging my girls, I feel that so much confidence in both of those has been in our willingness to love and support one another as we figure each other out and figure out our bodies together.
There you go, because that's the best way to do it. Let's do it together.
Right. All right. So celebrate your partner, what you love about them. Focus on how to love them in the most physical, intimate way. And remember, the uniqueness in each of us strengthens all of us. Namaste.
2, 3. Up with the rising sun, already on the run. Mama says namaste. Life is a tangled mess, and you don't have to stress. Mama says namaste. 'Cause today I will stand up and be all that change.